Friends, very happy evening to all of you. I welcome you all to an important meeting on IBC. In fact, when me and FT member were discussing, the discussion was whether we should still have an IBC meeting given the relaxations what the government is giving. But we thought nevertheless the rules are not going to change much. So we thought we'll definitely have a meeting, and the immediate name which came to us was CA Anil Goel sir, who is kind of authority on the subject. And thanks to the initiative of FT ma'am, that we are able to kind of have him amidst us, where he's going to share his thoughts on IBC. A lot of things have changed, are changing, and a lot of relaxations are also come. So we'll request the speaker also to touch upon that. So I request all the members to take benefit of his presence, and you can always put your chat, the questions in the question box, which we will take up in the end. And the handout, the material which we put up shortly in the handouts, which also can be downloaded. Nevertheless, this also will be put in the SARC website. Now we request the Revati ma'am first to share her thoughts. Then we'll request Abhishek Murli to introduce the speaker. Revati ma'am, please.
Yeah, thank you, DC. Good evening, friends. Good evening, Anil sir, and good evening, Abhishek. I should first place on my record appreciation for Anil sir for immediately accepting when I requested him, even though these are the lockdown times. I don't think he is facing any kind of lockdown phenomena or any kind of inactivity due to lockdown. He seems to be extremely busy, and he tells me, "You call me at this time. Only then will I be able to answer you." And then finally I have to resort to WhatsApp. It's so great that you were able to accept our invitation, sir. Thank you very, very much. See, actually, if you see there, one side of the COVID pandemic, the lockdown, the other side is the economic impact which we are facing on all areas. And IBC has been one of the most talked about economic impacts or measures, or suspending IBC for 6 months to 1 year, and then increasing the default limit, and now introduction of Section 10A. So there has been a lot of, if you see, a lot of articles, a lot of discussions on as to whether the IBC is a failure, whether IBC is what is going to IBC going forward, how are the NPAs going to be resolved, how are the MSMEs going to recover from their corporates, and there is so many ramifications for this one particular thing of suspension. Are you able to hear me? Are you able to hear me? Yeah. Okay. So this, I think Anil sir is not. Okay. So taking this forward, what we felt was having a meeting on IBC is going to be extremely relevant now, because one way or the other, if you see the economic impact of IBC is very, very high. And if you see the ease of doing business, World Bank's ease of doing business index, implementation, the success of implementation of IBC and the recoveries which have been shown by India has been one of the main factors for India actually, rising up in the rankings up to 63. So there is no way that IBC is going to be suspended fully. What is going to be suspended is taking action on defaults due to COVID. And I think that, as professionals, we all know it is very easy for us to identify why a default has happened and how a default has happened due to COVID. And this is the only one which is not within the ambit of IBC. And we have Anil sir, who is going to take us through the entire gamut of how IBC is going to look post-COVID, post the lockdown, and post the lifting of the suspension. And what I feel is that as professionals, we all need to upskill ourselves even more to take on the volume of activities which are going to come subsequent to the lifting, and also, once they notify the individuals and partnerships, which is also going to happen, because suspending is what is happening world over, but once it is lifted world over, everyone is going to go in a coordinated effort, and that is how the economies of the entire world is also going to improve. And we all know that once the lockdown is lifted, economically India is going to thrive. It may be a few months, 6 months to 1 year. Our economy may be on a little shaky footing, but we have always had a history of bouncing back, and we will definitely bounce back. And insolvency is also going to play a major role in this economic upturn, I would say, of India. So over to Abhishek now for a formal introduction of Anil sir, and then on to discussion, the IBC discussion. Thank you.
Chairman, you are on mute. We cannot hear you.
In fact, thanks to CA ma'am, she's our IBC man. Coincidentally, she's a woman who kinds of, is very eager about anything to do on IBC. She's the chairman of the IBC and the evaluation committee also. So rightfully, she's doing programs. In fact, she wanted to do a refresher course. If things go fine, we'll do a refresher course also on IBC. So thank you so much, ma'am, for bringing us the Anil Goel and discuss on things. And for the benefit of members, though there are relaxations, they are only temporary. It is going to go bigger because IBC is going to get applicable to the individuals and partnership firms also going forward, which also we would like to see Anil Goel to discuss. Abhishek, over to you to introduce our speaker.
Yeah, thank you so much, Chairman. Thank you, Revati ma'am, for that opening address. And of course, thank you so much, Anil Goel ji, for taking time out of your busy schedule to join us. I'm very privileged to give you, you have the honor of introducing Anil Goel ji. When we conceptualized the program, some people had asked the chairman and I, why IBC? Anyway, they have pushed it by 1 year. No, why IBC? We told that this is continuing professional education. Whether IBC is happening now or not, 1 year later, all of what cases should have happened this 1 year will happen then. So it's more important for us to be prepared for that time. Take this as an opportunity to gear up and learn more and make use of the opportunity that comes out of IBC. So I now formally introduce our speaker, CA Anil Goel ji. He is the founder and chairman of AAA Insolvency Professionals LLP, one of the first 2 insolvency professional entities which was recognized by the Insolvency and Bankruptcy Board of India. He is a member of the advisory committee of the IPA of ICAI. He is the co-chairman of the ASSOCHAM, National Council for Insolvency and Bankruptcy, and he is also a member of the working group established by the IBBI for the implementation of individual bankruptcy in India. He is also a member of the SEBI constituted by the IBBI, a faculty for awareness program launched at the instance of CBDT and the IBBI authorities, and a faculty for spreading awareness amongst the DRT members and the officials on the insolvency and bankruptcy proceedings of personal guarantors. He's a regular faculty at the IICA, and he's a regular speaker at various forums also, professional forums, webinars, even valuation, management of stressed assets under SARFAESI, and restructuring of debts, etc., along with the insolvency. He's a regular speaker at workshops organized by IBBI, IPAs, ICAI, ICSI, ICMA, ASSOCHAM, CII. The list goes on endlessly. He's a regular contributor of articles of professional interest as well, and he's a person with significant professional experience also. In fact, he's currently acting as a liquidator in 10 companies, some of the most well-known companies. The list is there on the page. You can see REI Agro Limited, Rotomac, LML Limited, Amrapali Group, Lanco, etc. And as I already said, founder of the AAA Insolvency Professionals LLP, the largest insolvency professional in the country. And he is also the founder and chairman of AAA Capital Services Private Limited, a company engaged in the profession of resolution or enforcement agents under SARFAESI Act. And it operates in more than 20 states in our country. CA Anil Goel is also a chartered accountant in practice, senior partner of a firm, and has engaged in raising funds, structuring, restructuring, rehabilitation, and handled more than 1,000 cases. So this is only a brief introduction, because even though I was reading the profile shared with me, given the lack of time, I had to skip that also. And despite that, we have covered so many achievements by Anil Goel ji. So thank you so much, Anil Goel ji, for joining us today and taking time out of your busy schedule to address the members of our southern region. I take great honor in welcoming you, sir. When you're in mute.
You're in mute.
Yeah, Anil sir, over to you. Waiting to hear from you, sir. Please. Sir, you're not audible, Anil sir.
Audible. It is not audible. Now it is back.
Now it is.
I think it is back now. It is back now. So thank you very much for all these words that you have spoken to me. And my first and foremost thanks to CA Revati, and she's been interacting with me, and she was also kind enough to speak to me as per my time availability. My special thanks to Mr. DC Jain, Chairman SIRC of Institute of Chartered Accountants of India, CA Abhishek Murali, Secretary of SIRC of Institute of Chartered Accountants of India, which is my own institute. And it definitely would be a wonderful experience to address the audience, which is from South India. We have our offices in Chennai, Bangalore, and most of the Hyderabad and Kochi. So most of the South India that we have already covered. Our partners are working there, and the business opportunities are huge. I definitely think that this time is a very, very good time for IBC subject. Why I'm saying so? Because in the news, only half-cooked items are being presented. So first of all, I would like to clear that there is no suspension of IBC. There is no suspension of IBC, and the professional opportunities, the opportunities for creditors have not gone down anywhere. I will just come because see, my slide, in fact, it had a lot of impact of COVID on businesses and all that. While I was hearing you that the IBC has been suspended, that maybe that the IBC is not at all a relevant subject now, immediately I shifted 2 slides from my presentation to clarify this doubt, first of all, that the IBC has not been suspended. And most of the participants would be happy to see whosoever are actually ever engaged in IBC as a resolution professional, as a liquidator, as an authorized representative, and most of the chartered accountants who are hand-holding the corporate debtors under financial stress. Most of the chartered accountants are also engaged in preparation of resolution plans. They are hand-holding the resolution applicants, and they are also engaged in the forensic audit, transaction audit. So for everyone, the business would not even go down by 10%, not even by 10%. I'm coming down to that. I'm actually explaining each and every, and I would rather prefer, rather than speaking for continuously for 1.5 hours or 2 hours, I would prefer that we will take questions every 30 minutes, so that the relevant questions are taken up at relevant time. So any of you can read the questions to me from the panel, and then I would be able to answer every 30 minutes. So that actually would be engaging the audience, or even you can actually give the mic also to the people who are raising hands. That also can be given so that everyone participate into the discussion. So with this, I think let me share my screen with you, and just one moment, I will just share my screen with you. So is it visible to all?
Yes, it is visible now, sir.
Yeah. So the subject as we chose, everyone knows, and the first is IBC. So let me first of all explain IBC, what it stands, how it stands, where it stands today, and then we will discuss the financial stresses which are because of the COVID-19 or pandemic. So it is very, very important that we should understand what is the ordinance. The ordinance dated 5th of June 2020 is a very, very specific ordinance which says that the IBC is suspended for every default which has occurred or arising on or after 25th of March 2020. for a period of 6 months, but not exceeding 1 year from such date. So this is the ordinance that may be for 6 months or maybe 1 year, and depending upon the central government, and all applications like under section 7, 9 and 10 is suspended, and the IBC would not be applicable. Second, it says that the no application also would be filed, and in the explanation it is said that the default, the explanation and IBC, whatever it is submitted, it says it shall not be applicable to any default committed before 25th of March 2020. So let us understand that presently the banks are sitting on various NPAs, maybe more than 8 lakh crores, and out of those 8 lakhs crores, maybe there are some which pertains to entities like proprietorship concerns or partnership firms or societies where the IBC is not yet applicable. But all other loans which are not given to entities, as I spoke, and which are given to the corporate entities, LLPs, or any other incorporated entity, like there are some societies which are incorporated, so even the IBC is applicable on those incorporated entities also. So let us assume that out of 8 lakh crores, 50% of the NPAs are still pertaining to corporate entities, LLPs, or even the incorporated other entities like some of the societies. So then the entire existing NPAs are applicable, and this particular ordinance is not applicable to all those defaults. Definitely the NPA, if an account is NPA, that means at least the account is NPA because of default for 90 days, and that default definitely would have been much before 25th of March 2020. So the banks, NBFCs, financial creditors, operational creditors, workmen, everyone would be able to file an application to NCLT for any default which occurred or arised before 25th March 2020. So this is very, very important to understand what is presently suspended. Only defaults which are occurring after 25th of March 2020, only those defaults are suspended. Those defaults otherwise also, in case there is any default which is as recent as 25th of March 2020, do you think that the banks definitely would have been preparing for filing the NCLT applications? Banks normally come up to NCLT only maybe after a year or maybe even many years, but not less than at least the account becomes NPA. And we are not even talking about NPA, we are talking about default. The definition of default under IBC is not NPA. It is the date on which any installment or interest was due and is not paid. So that is the only default date. Default date is very, very important actually to see and show that it is prior to 25th of March 2020. So whatever existing business which was expected by the insolvency professionals or anyone who was engaged in the insolvency law, nothing has been dropped. All that business which was expected in the next 2 years, that is continuing. Anything that was expected, because today in case there is a default, that particular default will convert into an application after 6 months or after 1 year or after many years. So what are we talking about? That means whatever the business that we expected in the next 2-3 years, that will definitely come. And all those defaults which has occurred during this period from 25th of March 2020 and till 25th of March or 24th of March 2021. During this period, if there would be any default, that would be handled separately by way of maybe RBI circular under dated 7th June 2020 to 2019, or maybe any other bailout package which the government come out. The new scheme which is
So your voice is not audible. Anil sir, your voice is not audible.
Is more than 2,000 crore. So we are trying to bring it down. The ultimate amount of the threshold amount of 2,000 crore actually can be brought down by RBI. So this is this, see, like any person who have supplied goods or services and the payment was due before 25th of March 2020 and the payment was not made, all those creditors can go to NCLT. The only thing is that the threshold limit of 1 lakh has been increased to 1 crore. So that is that might impact more than the impact of this ordinance, because the threshold limit of 1 crore now, that will take away lot many applications which were being filed by operational creditors for the recovery. So that has been taken away, and maybe that will come again, but that has been taken away. So that amendment of increase in the threshold limit actually would impact on the IBC more than the ordinance. The ordinance would not impact the actual profession of IBC. So this is the even I would say where the demand notice were already issued for any operational creditor. If the demand notice were already issued, or even if the demand notice are not issued, but the date of default is before 25th of March 2020, those applications will also be filed. So nothing has actually been diminished. No business has been taken away by this ordinance. To my understanding, zero business has been taken away by this ordinance. Rather, the business which otherwise would have come to us after a year, that might get a little slower, only because any default between 25th of March 2020 to 24th of March 2021, for that default IBC would not be available. But maybe there are many other restructuring schemes or those would be available for any kind of relief to the industry or for saving the employment in the country. So the important part is that even it is very clearly said that the application also would not be filed, or application would not be even filed if the default is post 25th of March 2020. So that means that the registrar will have some kind of power, that the registrar will first of all see the date of default, and if the date of default is post 25th March 2020, then that application would not be admitted. So this clause is introduced only to avoid clogging of NCLT benches, where a lot of people will go and try to get the adjudication whether the default is prior to 25th March or post 25th March. So most every default whosoever was preparing for IBC definitely is prior to 25th March 2020, where this law is applicable. So my understanding, Mr. Jain, is I think we should open the discussion at this level, because unless we settle this issue, it is very difficult to go forward and try to see the impact of pandemic on the economy or effect of the how to resolve that. So we have prepared in such a manner that it is usable, because I am not sure whether the participants are those only who are interested in IBC or any professional colleague who is engaged in financial services, auditing, accounting. So this is the time when we should actually clarify every question on this IBC ordinance. Then the perspective of further slides would be better understood. If there is any question so far, or we can even give mic to people who have raised hands.
Sir, actually, there are no questions as of now.
Okay.
People have, I think everyone's listening very seriously to you. Maybe as we go on, as the questions come up, we'll start taking them.
Okay.
Because we just started, most of them are chatted.
All right. Okay.
Yeah.
So this is a clarification on IBC. IBC is genuinely there, and there is nothing which has happened as a suspension. So that is not to be understood like that. I hope my slide is still visible, because I took it off and now it is still visible. Is it visible?
Yeah, it is visible, sir.
So now we can see like the pandemic impact on the economy, and not a very specific, but it is a general understanding of all my professional colleagues that we would like to highlight in this slide. So the general impact on the economy is directly affecting the production, supply, and consumption. So if the three things are impacted, production is closed, supply is closed, or consumption is closed to the extent of say 80%. So that will definitely impact the economy. The supply chain was disrupted, markets were disrupted. So the major impact was on some of the industries like hospitality, travel, real estate, automobile, entertainment. Even till today, the entertainment industry has not opened. The hospitality industry has not opened. Travel is not opened. Real estate also, like nobody is, neither the construction is going on nor the customers are coming. So there was a month when even not even a single car was sold in India. The employment is also not certain. There is a possibility that people might even get terminated during this period. There is a decline in the business in the service sector, because see, like as a chartered accountant also we see that the people are not ready to get their auditing done. So this period, even if we were ready as AAA group, we were completely ready to work from home. All our employees were working from home, and they were all having connected on the net, and all kind of facilities were given to them so that they can do remotely everything whatever is required to do in the financial services sector. Shortage of workmen would actually be a very, very big reason, because of the problem of like people moved back to their hometown, because problem of migrant workmen. And the problem is, this problem is more specific to India, because the India's demographic is that the people move from villages to cities or other places for job. So this all is having an impact on the financial impact on the businesses. Now I have categorized the financial impact on the business entities more specific to MSME. Then we will try to find out the options. What are the options available with them? So the financial impact on the business entities would be like losses during the lockdown period because of all the above reasons, as we said in the last slide, and expenses with no business and loss of value of stocks also. There are many people, they have actually lost value of their stocks, and their expenditures are more than income. Income in some cases is zero, but expenditures cannot be zero. There is a disruption of fund flow because the customers are not releasing their payments. I even know the examples where the mostly the OEMs, they are not releasing payments for their manufacturer, for their vendors. The continued loss for some more time because of the continuation of pandemic, that will also add losses. Working capital paucity is being felt because the revenues are not coming, the expenditures are being incurred, the salaries are being paid. Expenditure for the revival of the business would be required because the restart of the business is definitely has a cost. In many businesses, that cost is significant. The debtors are not making payment because like this particular period, the default would not be considered as a default. So everyone would like to take this advantage, because after 25th of March 2020, the default would not be considered as a default, and the supplier would not be able to take the customer to NCLT. So that is one scenario which actually will add to the fund flows of a company. So default in payment of payment to suppliers, workmen, taxes, unsecured. So all these defaults will happen by MSME or even larger companies. Now let us understand the options available or remedies available with MSME to resolve financial stress. So first of all, because most of the chartered accountant, their clients may be asking what to do. So this is with in case they are bullish about the business and revival. And this is also called as the shock absorbing capacity. Every businessman must have a shock absorbing capacity because this is a shock, and everyone should prepare for shock absorbing capacity. So in case anyone has better capacity would survive, anyone who is not having the shock absorbing capacity would go deep into the trouble. The restructuring of the business can be done, realigned with the expenditure, change in the product mix based on the market dynamics, settle with the creditors, and share some of the losses with them. So this part I would like to explain. I would like to explain in a manner that I would start. One, that this pandemic is a natural calamity. It can also be called as act of God. So with the such kind of natural calamities or act of God, there is no society or there is no economy in the world which would say that in this period one segment would totally be ruined and the other segment would get some undue enrichment. So what I'm trying to say is that everyone in the society is ready to suffer some of the losses and they're ready to cooperate wherever they are trying to cooperate. So in case we start with the employer and employee relationship. And practically, we have seen that the employers are also suffering because of no business, and the employees are also suffering. Some are suffering because the employers are not having any money to pay, and some are suffering because the employers have said that during this period we would not be able to pay full salaries, we would pay lesser salaries. As you might have seen, even the Supreme Court has held, and Supreme Court has given notice to central government that how can it be possible that how can you direct the employers that the salaries and wages during lockdown would be paid. So it has to be settled between the employees and employer. And to my practical experience handling so many clients, every employee is ready and every employer is ready. Every employer is ready to pay some amount and the employee is also ready to take the amount whatever is being offered, but the employee is also worried about the continuation of the job. So into this scenario, what I'm trying to say is that every businessman, every entrepreneur should not try to take the loss on him. Complete loss should not be taken. So this was an employee-employer relationship. Then coming to the relationship of the landlord and tenant. See, although the Supreme Court has said that the force majeure clause may not be applicable, but let us understand in case the landlord is not getting the payment for 2 months for the rent or getting the payment at 50%, let us understand what are the options available with the landlord. So let us assume that the offices or the shops, everything opens up after 3 months time. And after 3 months, the tenant starts giving the rent. The tenant starts giving the rent, but says that it is for the month of July. So for 3 months, which is April, May, and June. So what are the options available with the landlord? The landlord will definitely say that you are not paying my rent for these 3 months because you are occupying the premises, that the landlord will only go to court, rent control courts or any other control, whosoever is an adjudicating authority for such matters. The court will say that you have to settle because there is nothing the court can say. And it will take 2 years and finally it has to be settled between the landlord and the tenant. So the court would not be able to pass an order where we see like it is a force majeure, and whether it is a force majeure or not, that orders will take a lot much of time and lot many landlords and tenants will settle by that time. Then comes the suppliers and customers. So for everywhere, in case you are still getting the value of the goods, you should pay, and the delay in making payment is acceptable, and delay in getting payment is acceptable. So any periodic payment. So like for example, we are making payment of every month we are making some payment for some use of generator or some use of other services. All these periodic payments also, in case services are not availed, services are not provided, then those payments also can be settled with those service providers. So while I'm saying so, I'm saying the best option for an entrepreneur, for a businessman, is to settle with everyone and continue the business, reduce the losses. Of course, there will be some losses, but reduce the losses, let the burden of losses go to all the stakeholders, and then try to revive the businesses. And the impact of COVID-19 can be neutralized by all these actions that I'm saying you. I will come to the legal part also, because that will be the next part of my slides. As the government is offering some kind of relief, some kind of like the government is offering some EPF relief, or the Employees Provident Fund, the government is also offering some the emergency credit line that also can be used. Then since this because of this insolvency, there is no option of going to insolvency for defaults after 25th of March, so that would not be applicable. So however, the personal guarantee, I mean, that option would be, of course, available. So in case a person feels that I'm not able to come out of this stress, we have seen that the Section 10 also is suspended for the defaults after 25th of March. So we are not talking about anything after 25th of March. We are only talking something IBC is only for a default which is before 25th of March 2020. Now let us see the options or remedies available with MSME against defaulters. Now I'm coming to the other side of the table. Now I'm an MSME and I have a defaulter, mini defaulter. So how to handle that part? So as an MSME, as an entrepreneur, I would try to settle with the defaulters for continued business and share the losses. And if there are some checks in hand, and that I would like to use, because the checks in hand is still usable, and there is nothing like which is suspended. As far as Section 138 is concerned, it is not suspended. So there are some cases where when you are a single source for supply, then you can disrupt the supply and take the entire money, and that also can be used as a tool to get your money back from the customer. You can also use the Chapter 5 of the Micro, Small and Medium Enterprises Development Act if the other party is not MSME. In this MSME scenario, there is a kind of MSME facilitation council which is made. This council try to make some kind of compromises between the supplier and between the defaulters. So this also can be used for recovering your money. And the IBC, of course, cannot be used. So this is only the when I'm businessman, I actually have to settle with everyone. Options or remedies available with the suppliers, workmen or employees, because I'm trying to handle it from the every side. Now let us understand what are the options available with the employees. Employees will also have to share the loss, or otherwise they can go to a forum where somebody can say that why are you not paying salaries, and the businessman can always say that I'm not having funds. So if the government can arrange funds, I will pay, but the government is not making any arrangement of the funds. So the Supreme Court has also held that no coercive action would be taken if a person is not making payment of salaries. That has also been held by the Supreme Court. So as against the suppliers, workmen, they should also settle, because they also have no other option. The supplier also should settle, the employee also should settle, the workman also should settle, and try to handle the pandemic situation in a collaborative manner. And it should not be considered that it is
Anil sir, we have lost your audio. Anil sir. Anil sir, Are you able to listen to us? We have lost your audio.
Large
Yeah.
scale enterprise.
Yeah, now you're audible, sir. We lost your audio for a few seconds, sir.
Okay. So I think the subject that I'm trying to handle as of now is what are the options available with the businessman. Now I'm coming to the options available with the banks and financial institutions. This particular slide is only handling the banks and financial institutions or secured creditors. Since the default is to my understanding, if there is a default after 25th of March 2020, so the banks definitely have no option to go to IBC. Even I know that there is an order by a High Court that during this lockdown, even the SARFAESI actions would not be taken. So the DM or CMM, they are not giving orders during this period for taking possession of the properties or secured assets and handing it over to banks. That is also suspended for some time by the because the timing is not there, but then during lockdown it will not happen. Then the other option with the banks is that the only restructure, reschedule, settle the terms, and in case the bank feels that yes, this company can definitely, it is a short-term scenario, so the bank can further extend some facilities. So all this has to be done within the extending period as announced by the RBI for NPA classification. Originally, it was announced for 3 months. Now it is announced for 6 months. For 6-month default, starting from 25th of March, the account would not be considered as NPA because this IRAC norms by RBI has been amended, and this period is excluded. And now this period is extended to 6 months. Even if there is a default for 6 months, the account would not be declared as NPA. So that's a big relief. So yes, we might even think that there will be people who would be intentionally defaulting during this period, but somehow whenever you default, you end up paying penal interest. You also end up paying interest. So if somebody is not bothered about interest, and then of course he can continue the credit facilities for another 6 months and pay interest on that. So if the bank can take action against SARFAESI, once this lockdown is over, the bank definitely can take action under SARFAESI. But yes, I'm sure about that, the Department of Financial Services or any of the court would come out with any order which will also prohibit the banks and financial institutions to invoke section 13.2 or 13.4 of the SARFAESI Act, and the properties also would not be taken in possession by the secured creditors. That also will come, because it is not possible that only the IBC, only the protection is from IBC. The protection would be from all sides to businessmen for this pandemic period. IBC cannot be invoked. The bank can also invoke personal guarantees, but that also, because see, in case the bank invokes personal guarantees during this period along with the collateral security, that they'll have to do under SARFAESI. So I'm sure something will come for SARFAESI. So let us conclude that the secured creditor would also not have any option after 25th of March 2020 defaults. So they would only have an option to extend further facilities, also to settle with them, reschedule, restructure. That is the only option available with the banks. Now let us understand what all has been done by the government for and what all the relaxations have been given by the government to the businessman. The first is NCLT order dated 30th of March 2020, which it was a suo motu order, and which said that the period of lockdown will be excluded from CIRP period as specified under section 12 of IBC. So this period from 25th of March 2020 onwards till the time the lockdown is continuing, maybe it will continue for 3 months. So that period would be excluded from IBC and it will be considered as automatically extended. Any stay order or interim order passed by the NCLT shall continue till next date of hearing. So there is everything is standstill during this period, during lockdown period. So there no adverse impact on any legal proceedings before NCLT or any other authority under IBC. Even the Supreme Court has passed a suo motu order that all the limitation period prescribed under any law shall be extended from 15th March 2020 to the date of further order passed by Supreme Court. So many limitations, in any limitation, everything is now extended, and that is started from 15th of March 2020. So may it be income tax, anything where the limitations are there, and that limitation would not be having any adverse impact. The threshold limit of IBC has been increased from 1 lakh to 1 crore dated 24th of March 2020. Suspension, of course, we have discussed. The default, of course, would be 25th of March 2020. There is a possibility of another resolution framework which is expected for MSME, and that is expected under section 240A of the code. It is being worked out, and definitely it will be introduced. On the other hand, now even if for the existing cases where the IBC is continuing and the company was not MSME earlier, but now with effect from 13th of May 2020, the notification has already been issued and the limits under MSME has been increased. Now the highest limit is 50 crores of investment in plant and machinery and turnover of 250 crores. So with this definition of MSME, so most of the companies, even under NCLT, those would be covered under MSME, and those companies can even register. Even the RP can register them now as MSME once this government website is started functioning as according to the new limitations. The MSME registrations can be done. Once the MSME registration is done, then the promoters can also submit the resolution plan, and that section 29A of the IBC would not be applicable. So this is also one of the very, very important relaxation that has been given by government, that in case the resolution applicants are not available in the market, so most of the companies where even the turnover, you see, when we talk about turnover, it is not talking about the peak turnover. It is talking about the turnover in the last year. So in case the last year the company was already sick, it was bad. So the turnover, in fact, even if the turnover, peak turnover was 600 crores, while the company is not doing well, the turnover will definitely reduce to a great extent. So in all these cases, the turnover will definitely come within this new limitation, new limits, and a company would be considered as an MSME, and the promoters will be able to submit a resolution plan, because the promoters understand smaller companies better than anyone else. So this is also a very big relaxation, that the this has been increased, the limits have been increased. Various other compliance defaults like the IRAC, like income recognition and asset classification norms, has been relaxed. As earlier it was for earlier it was only for 3 months, now it has been extended for 6 months. Income tax and GST compliance dates and payment of taxes has been relaxed. Ministry of Corporate Affairs ROC relaxations has been announced. SEBI relaxations has also been announced. Other relaxations would also be offered from different industry segment, and that in case there is nothing is coming, then I think appropriate forums can be taken up, the matter can be taken up there, and it can be discussed. Now the IBC now and the future.
Anil sir, can we take some questions?
I think it's an appropriate time that we should take on questions.
Yeah, I request the admin to put me as a presenter so that I'll share my screen. Yeah, I'll just share my screen, sir. Is the question visible on the screen?
It is visible.
Okay. The first question is, my question is that if I'll take it. My question is that if application under section 7, 9 or 10 is admitted, then as on date, the valuations will be required to be done. The date of default, the date of admission of my petition, or any other date. As I understand, the valuation is on date of petition. CA Nitish Grover.
No, see, like the first.
Anil sir, we have lost your audio. Anil sir, you are not audible. Anil sir.
Anil Goel ji, we cannot hear you.
Anil sir, sir, you are not audible, sir. Sir, we missed your audio again.
Chairman, show him a hand.
Anil sir, my hand will be a bit heavy. Anil sir, sir,
Yes,
we
yes.
missed your audio. Hello,
Okay,
we lost your audio, sir. Yeah, you will have to restart again.
I would repeat. So the first part of the first part of the question is the application under section 7, 9 or 10 is admitted. Now the admission means that the CIRP has started. Once the CIRP is started, I hope I'm audible.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Audible, sir.
Yes.
Okay. So once the CIRP is started, the valuer has to be appointed by the RP. If the RP is not getting appointed within first 40 days, then the RP would be considered as doing the duties of the RP on the 40th day of CIRP. So there are two dates: one, a 7th day of the appointment of RP, or 47th day from the date of commencement of CIRP. That is the date when the valuer would be appointed.
Yeah,
so there is nothing like the valuation as on the date of petition. The valuation has to be on the date of order of initiating CIRP. The valuation has to be done on the date of the order of the CIRP.
Question number 2, due government announcement, most of the businesses entities, even reputed, are not paying rent for the lockdown period. Is it valid as per law? Whether owners get any concession in property tax? Murali Krishna Prasad.
So this is a typical question that I also handled, that the most of the tenants are not paying rent. Whereas the Supreme Court has handled this matter twice. At one point of time, the Supreme Court handled this because this lawyers who were actually occupying the chambers, the lawyers submitted an application to High Court of Delhi that they should not be allowed, they should not be paying rent for this period because they are not using it. The High Court refused in this manner. There was another application for tenant and this thing, but then the Supreme Court for the time being has held that this particular part is not covered as a forced measure. However, if the rent is not being paid, no coercive action should be taken during this period, or it can be paid later. But my understanding, how I explained to you, is that in case you don't pay the rent for the 3 months, or you settle with the landlord for a lesser rent, and later on you start paying your rent as per the agreement, then the landlord has only an option to go to court and ask for the rent, because he cannot ask for eviction, because you are paying the rent for June, July, August, and then he can only ask for the balance rent. Let's see what the court says, and finally after 2 years the court will say, okay, settle yourself. So it is always better to settle and take the life forward rather than going for litigation.
Yeah. Next question is, most of the banks are giving loans for trade under MSME. Is it permissible?
Most of the banks are giving loans even for trade under MSME. So the MSME is primarily for manufacturing or for providing services. For trading activities are not considered as MSME. It is only for manufacturing or for service sectors if somebody is providing services. So maybe somebody is trying to say that I'm providing some services and also selling some goods while I'm providing some services, that may be covered, because primarily it is servicing, but as simple trading activities are not covered as MSME. This is not permitted.
The next question is, India is facing financial stress even before lockdown. Multiple measures are announced by government and RBI. However, there is no sufficient measures to boost the demand side. Banks are not willing or hesitant to lend to the businesses to restart operations due to raising NPAs and consequences of moratorium scheme for 6 months. Can we expect some measures in this line from government, or are we? CA Vishnu.
So I think this lockdown has taught us a lot many things. Not us means the entire society in India. Everyone has realized that there are a lot many things that we use in life which are not even required, and the life is still comfortable without using some of the luxurious items that we consumed in the past. So this scenario definitely will lead to lower demand for some time. And if the demand is lower, the size of the economy would actually be lower. And for increasing demand, like let us see what the developed countries are doing, because they can print as many notes as possible because they don't have that kind of fiscal deficit, and they don't have that kind of uh, inflation difficulties. In India, if the government tries to print note and hand over some purchasing power to each and every person, then that would lead to inflation, and that would lead to a very huge fiscal deficit. So that probably is not something that the economist will suggest Indian government. The government will not come anything which is a blanket uh, spreading money in the market for developing a demand, for increasing demand. Yes, the government can spend with the AC on infrastructure. The government will definitely come up with the banks. As the banks have been given this 3 lakhs crore to be given to the MSME. I'm coming to that scheme, and that scheme is a very good scheme that anyone can take 20% of the loan that already is taken, and that is fully guaranteed by central government. Fully guaranteed means that if the bank is losing any money on that account, that would be uh, uh, supported by central government. It's a budgetary support which will come. So this is definitely a difficult question, and this is a right observation that the demand will be reduced for some time, and this demand increase in the demand, like see, we have an example of about 40 years back, Canada. In fact, when there was a huge downside in the economy, the Canada printed notes and started investing on huge infrastructure. So they made roads even on those routes where there was only 2 cars which was supposed to go. So they made roads there also. So that was the infrastructure created, and the money was, even if the government can do that, or the government can create an environment that international investment should come in India. So that is also a very big possibility that the international investment should come in India. And that is the reason that the IBC would never be suspended. IBC, one of a very, very big condition for ease of doing business index, and that would never be disturbed, because the ease of doing business, insolvency and bankruptcy, and GST both have added a lot of points, and India will never lose the points. IBC will continue, and the ease of doing business index would improve. Then we expect that some people will come in India and invest money after this fear of corona is over.
You can share your screen.
Is it visible?
Yeah, visible, sir. Yes.
So as I said that the a resolution applicant would not be available for some time, and since this definition for MSME has increased, so many companies which are already under insolvency, the promoters will become eligible now, because the RP will apply for MSME status. Promoters will become eligible to participate, and that will be a new life for the company and as for the promoters also. So for most of the existing cases, the RP should apply for MSME certificate based on the facts, and then the promoters can also participate into the resolution plan in case they wish to do that.
Anil sir, we have lost your audio again. Anil sir, sir, Anil sir, we have lost your audio again. Anil sir.
Company to the same promoter at a discounted price.
Anil sir, 30 seconds of audio we lost again, sir, please.
Okay, so the resolution applicant is not available and would not be available for some time. This is a difficulty that presently India is facing for an insolvency law. But a very big relaxation has come when the definition of MSME has been modified, and the many companies which are under insolvency would come under the definition of MSME, where the plant and machinery is 50 crores or less, and the turnover is less than 250 crores. And that too, not the peak turnover, but that's a turnover which is considered to be the turnover in the last year. So what I'm trying to say is that the promoters would be able to participate into the resolution plan, and the promoters would be able to take away the company again. However, the COC is not comfortable in handing over the company to the promoters in case there is any fraudulent transaction which is found by the transactional auditor. The COC says that one side that we are trusting the same promoter who have already done fraud, and that promoter is taking the company by giving us 60% or 70% loss. That is not, the COC is not comfortable, because they feel that this is not the right thing and we will not promote this in the country. Otherwise, every promoter will actually do this willful default and come and take the company back to bet at 50% or 40%. So that is not acceptable to COC. However, in case the promoter, in association with some other investor, give everything to the COC upfront, then the COC is accepting. Then the COC is saying that now the other promoter, some other investor has come, and the promoter is reduced to something like 20%, 30%, 40% share. That can be accepted. However, if the promoter says that give the company back to me, I will pay in 5 years, that kind of resolution plans are not being accepted. Fresh investment would come in India, and see that should be fresh investment would be kept in hold. That's also, everyone knows that in India the investments would be kept on hold. Anyone who is having cash would be sitting on the cash. That's of course very important, that once the market is very low, every cash valuation would decline further. So there are many people, they have already submitted their resolution plans, and now they are trying to renegotiate with the committee of creditors, and they are saying that the valuations have come down. This business has already ruined, and this business will not revive in the next less than 1 year or 2 years. So they are seeking a lot of discount, or they are even ready to forego their earnest money deposit. What I understand is that in case somebody will go for litigation, even the NCLT will say that this situation has changed and this person should be entitled to get the earnest money back. So if anyone, suppose somebody has submitted an application for a hotel or for a restaurant chain, and he will definitely say that I don't want to buy now and I want my earnest money deposit back. So that in case he goes to NCLT and asks for his refund of the earnest money deposit or the performance security, while the resolution plan has not been approved by the adjudicating authority, he may be able to, he may succeed in getting the earnest money back, because the scenario that he has undergone, either he will forego, because this may be considered as something which is a natural calamity or an act of God, which is not the project itself is not viable commercially. Bidders would not be available under the liquidation sale or under the sale under SURFACE. All will wait for further reduction in the valuation. That will happen. The customers would not be available, and they might even say that we would like to have wait for more discount. Now, in case the bank during this period, in case the bank invokes IBC or SURFACE, the bank will also lose further, but I don't think bank has any other option. If the valuations have reduced, if the valuations have decreased, the banks will have to take an action under IBC or SURFACE. Now I'm talking all the defaults prior to 25th of March. I'm not talking the defaults post 25th of March. So the bank will also lose money. So this is the scenario, what will happen in the IBC. That's what I wanted to say. This is the future of the IBC. This scheme, which is a 3 lakh crore credit guarantee scheme, at this particular level, I would say that this scheme is a good scheme, and all my professional colleagues should try to uh, promote this scheme amongst their clients. This is, although this name of the scheme is MSME, but since the MSME definition has been increased, it is also written that the scheme is open not only to those who are registered as MSME, but any business enterprise that meets the conditions prescribed. We will see what are the conditions prescribed. So the scheme is called like Emergency Credit Line Guarantee Scheme. I'll just take 1 minute. Okay, so this scheme is called Emergency Credit Line Guarantee Scheme, and the present government would actually provide guarantee to this scheme through the National Credit Guarantee Trust Corporation, and the loans can be given to every person who is eligible, and the tenure of the loan would be for 4 years. The interest rate is capped at 9.25% if it is from bank. If it is from an NBFC, then the interest rate is capped at 14%. There is no repayment required for 1 year, and there is a 1 year moratorium which is being given. And as I said, this is 100% credit guarantee cover to banks. The banks will not lose money in case the bank give this amount to any of the borrower, and in case the borrower defaults, the banks would not lose money because this is 100% guaranteed by government. There is another 90,000 crore liquidity injection which is given to the distribution companies under power sector. This 20,000 crore subordinate debt for stressed MSME is also given, and the employee provident fund support has also been given, which is approximately 2,500. Definition, of course, has been increased for MSME. 20% is the entitlement. 20% of the loan outstanding as on 29th of February 2020. That would be given to every person. This is a kind of pre-approved sanction limit. So there is no application required, and there is no security cover, and everything probably would not be required because this is actually being given in the form of working capital term loan. So working capital term loan can be given, and it is not specified whether the security cover would be required or not. I don't think security cover would be required because this is pre-approved sanction of 20%. So the eligibility is every person who is MSME or otherwise. The only eligibility criteria is that the outstanding loans across different banks, NBFCs, and financial institutions, that should be only up to 25 crores. So in case the loans are more than 25 crores, then the person would not be eligible, and that is as on 29th of February 2020. The annual turnover of the firm should be up to
Anil sir, your voice is lost again.
So
Anil
every,
sir?
yes, please.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, okay. Yeah.
So am I audible? Yeah, or
Yeah.
we missed part. So is there any question? We can take a break, or we can take some questions at this stage. That would be, because we need to understand what exactly the audience is interested into.
Revati ma'am, any question has come?
Yeah, there was one question. 1 minute. I don't think even we need to share the screen. Default, that is even SMA 1 before 2403 will qualify for CIRP. This is a question by CA Delhi, sir. Whether
So
SMA 1.
SMA 0, SMA 01, SMA 02, or NPA, everything is a default. Just one second. So everything is a default. So the IBC does not require NPA status. IBC only requires a default. If there is a term loan installment which was supposed to be given on 7th of February, and it was not given till 25th of March, it would be considered as a default, and that default will make that particular company eligible for IBC. So that's very clear. It is applicable to SMA 0, SMA 01, SMA 02, and NPA, every kind of default.
Yeah, Revati ma'am, one more question has come at 7:14. Can you just check? Nitish Pro.
Yeah, I'm just checking.
This is supposed to be mailed to them. Mail करना होगा नहीं, the signatures are not even required. Mail कर दो.
अच्छा मेरे को लगा तो स्कैन करके भेजना कनेक्ट होगी कि वो भी जो भेज रहे हैं दिस ऑल हैज टू बी स्कैन्ड एंड देन मेल.
That is, तो वो तो कंसेंट है ना, कोर्ट में जाना है ना, तो ये तो अब मेल भी भेज दो, ये भी अटैच कर दो. Yeah.
Sir, there is one more question on information utility. Request,
Yes,
please
yes.
say something about the role and importance of information utility. And and its importance, as I understand it, a certificate from IU is now essential to start a CIRP by Nitish Grover.
See, there are two things. One is the SURFACE and the other is the IBC. Under SURFACE Act, it has been made mandatory that all the banks, in case they have any security interest, that security interest would be registered with CERSAI, Central Registry, which is called CERSAI, CERSAI. So that registration is a must. And in case the security interest is not registered with CERSAI, the SURFACE action cannot be started. Now, as far as the information utility is concerned, information utility, so far it has not become mandatory for filing an IBC application. Information utility, although they're trying to do that, but maybe in a few months it might even become. But for information utility, it is, you see, most of the banks have already registered all their security interest to information utility. And they are now submitting their certificate of information utility. And this is the, I think very recently, there was a notification that the information utility certificate should be submitted along with it. Still, I'm sure, like in case this information utility certificate is not there, then the application would still be accepted. It is not become mandatory that the application would not be accepted at all. So what are the other questions?
Yeah, sir. One is about the new MSME definition, turnover criteria. The minister had announced that the turnover shall not include export turnover for 250 crore limit, but the notification is silent about export turnover. This is by Chartered Accountant Sundar Hegde. They have not included export.
The definition is now very clear, because the notification has never given any credit to export turnover. Any turnover, including export turnover, they have increased it to 250, while earlier they were discussing 100 crores. So In this scenario, I think the export turnover is inclusive in 250 crores now. Because earlier when this was being discussed, it was 100 crores.
Yes. There's one more question on MSME. Whether units registered under MSME after the announcement of benefits by the government are eligible to avail the benefits?
Yes, I think once the limits are increased, I don't think it is applicable to new units. It is applicable to the existing units also. Once we say that it is applicable to the existing units, because had it been applicable to a new unit only, then it would have been notified in the notification, which is not there. So it is applicable to the existing units also. So for any existing unit where the investment in plant and machinery is 50 crores and turnover is 250 crores or less, they can actually get themselves registered as MSME and can take the benefits of MSME. So this is applicable to the existing units also.
Yeah. So we'll take it later, sir. The questions. If you've completed this answer, you can proceed. We'll take the questions later in some time.
Okay, so as far as this part is concerned, the eligibility is, as I said, 25 crores. The annual turnover of 250 crores. This scheme is applicable to proprietorship concerns, partnership firm, registered company, trusts, limited liability partnerships, and even the corporates. But the loans taken for the business is being covered. But only the loans taken for the business is being covered. So the loans taken by the promoters or directors in their personal capacity is not covered under this scheme. So the only loans taken for the business should be 25 crores. The scheme is valid for an existing customer of a bank or NBFC or financial institution. The loan account should be less than or equal to 60 days past dues. That means that it is the borrower has not classified SMA1, SMA2 or NPA. So it is only possible that because it was considered that the default should be related to COVID-19. In case we consider 25th of March 2020 and 60 days, so by now the default, it must be a new default. It should not be an old default, because the old defaults are covered under IBC. They can still have the banks will go for insolvency because those are older defaults. Now, in case the government would have relaxed this further, then all the older defaults would have taken this benefit and would have taken some credit facilities which probably would not be usable by them, and they would simply eat away. The borrower, there is another condition that the borrower must also be registered under GST unless the business is not required or exempted from GST. So like at this point of time, let us understand the again, like the future of IBC. So we are discussing the one is the financial stress. So we have discussed the financial stress. Let us reiterate the financial stress, which is basically because of the pandemic. First, it should be handled by settlement with the landlord, employees, suppliers, workmen, and all other wherever we are incurring expenditure. So we should cut down our losses and we should try to spread our loss to the stakeholders. Why the stakeholders would agree? Because they also need continuation of relationship and they also know what are the legal remedies available, because their legal remedies has also been cut by the government. So try to understand how the government is managing. The government is managing that automatically the economy will start working. Or not only one person will suffer, everyone will suffer. The employee will accept lesser salary because they would also not have any option. The landlord will also accept lesser rent because they will not have any option. The creditors, the suppliers will also wait for the payment because they will also have no option.
Anil sir, we lost your audio again for a few seconds. Anil sir, Sir,
delayed payment of TDS. You can use the delayed payment of provident fund. You can also use the delayed payment of income tax with the lesser interest rate. But whatever you do, unless it is a settlement with the uh, payee, the interest is applicable because there is nothing like blanket. The interest is applicable. So when we say, first of all, financial stress, however, we are managing the financial stress in this manner. So the government has not left any options available. So everyone would be ready for settlement. The business would continue. The companies who are doing larger businesses, they will also settle. I know one of my client, he's supplying to a very large automobile company, and that automobile company has already declared that we will only make payment to you only to the extent of 25%, and balance we will pay later. So that means that everyone is managing their stress just by passing on to a downward, and it will finally go to even the workman, and finally it will go to the employee also. So this is the real scenario. What should happen in a pandemic situation? It is not, nobody says that yes, the employee, while the employee is not coming to the office, is not able to come to the office, he's not spending money on the conveyance, he's not spending money on the social needs, he's not spending money on the on getting ready and spending on his social profile, and he should continuously get the full salary, whereas the employer would suffer. So after this COVID, or maybe 3 months or 6 months, when he will come out from home and he will try to join the office, the office would also already be completely dead. So where he will start the job, where he will join, where he will get the salary after 6 months, everyone is worried about this part. So there is no society or economy which will say that all the employers should be financially dead and all the employees should be flourishing. That's not a scenario that is acceptable. So very clearly, this is the way that we have to manage our financial stress. I think the concept of managing financial stress is actually managed. Like you might have seen why the stock market is increasing. It has gone down to say 27,000. It has gone. It has come up to 34,000 Sensex. So while this market realized that the losses to companies would not be huge, because there are many companies, they actually have reduced their salary bills. There are many companies, they have decided to allow their work from home. See, like if you allow employees to work from home, you also save a lot. One, that the employee would be ready to work at a lower salary. Two, that you don't need office facilities, you don't need office expenses, lot of electricity expenses, lot of support staff which is required for getting the work done, that also would not be required. So practically the businesses would not suffer huge losses because they will also cut their expenditure to that extent. So this is the way. I hope I'm able to conclude this part, that how to manage financial stress which is because of pandemic. I am not talking about the financial stress which was existing prior to 25th March, because on those particular defaults, IBC is applicable, SARFAESI is applicable. So the 20% amount can be taken, interest is also 9.25% and 14%. So the application is also very, very simple. I'm not spending time on this. I'm only spending time on the concept. IBC is definitely surviving. There is no decline in the IBC applications. There would not be any decline in the cases which is to come, and there is no decline in the only thing that which actually have more impact on the IBC is the threshold limit, which has been increased from 1 lakh to 1 crore. That will give more impact to the professionals, because see the once it was being used for recovery process and it was clogging the capacity of NCLT benches. That is what is the objective by increasing the 1 lakh to 1 crore. The scenario, the applications and the impact, of course, the stimulus, whatever stimulus are being given by the government, it will have impact of revival. It will have impact of even cooling down the entrepreneur. So that's what exactly my presentation says. We have a lot of time to discuss. I will just uh, withdraw my this slide, and we can have discussion. So we can have discussion on the yes. So, let us try to understand if there is any other question, or we can even open some of the people who are trying to ask the question. I would
Yeah,
like to
there are.
understand.
Yeah, please, sir, please.
I can you can even give the access to couple of people who want to ask some questions, and that would be really wonderful. But then I would only request everyone to be very specific to questions, and I would also be very specific to answers.
Yeah, we'll take the ones which have come in writing, and then we will
Yes.
take
Yeah,
somebody
there
who's
are
raising
some more questions have come in. We'll take those questions. Yeah, Selma, can you give me the right? Yeah.
the ma'am, you'll have to zoom it, ma'am, very small.
I can read
You have to
that.
zoom.
Even you can read that.
Can you see it now?
Yeah,
I can
Yeah.
read that.
Yeah, and
So the
IP is
question is
required
that
to appoint two valuers. There are, however, three classes for land and building, plant and machinery, and financial assets. How would an IP decide which class of asset valuers to appoint, especially as the IP cannot appoint a third valuer unless there is a significant difference between the two valuations? This is by CA Nitish Grover.
I think Nitish, I couldn't understand how would an IP decide which class of asset valuer to appoint. Okay, so see, as I said that the valuer is to be appointed uh, after within 7 days of RP's appointment or 47th day, whichever is earlier. So now let us understand that the 47 days are available with an RP to understand the company. RP will understand what is included in the assets of the company. If the company has land and building, then definitely the land and building valuers would be appointed. If the company has plant and machinery, then the valuers would be appointed for plant and machinery also. In case the company has some financial assets and securities, then these two valuers also would be appointed. So the basic information that the RP will get in the first 40 days is what are the assets of the company based on the information that he collects from the creditors or based on the information that he collects from the company by making visits. So then only he will decide. In case in any company, if the company has all the three assets, then he will appoint two assets for each asset class. If any company has only two kinds of asset and the third class of asset is not available, then he will appoint two valuers for each of the two class of assets. So the RP will decide based on his study of the assets of the company.
Yeah, sir, I have a small query for you on this. See, how do we appoint which valuer would be asked to value the inventory? Because normally, if you see, stock audits are given to auditors, but when we go in as an IP, whom should we appoint to value the inventory? Because in some cases, the inventory value is also very high, and also scrap. Whom can we appoint?
See, as far as the inventory is concerned, whenever the inventory is technical, now think of a situation that the inventory is having some components, some machinery, some mechanical items. See, a chartered accountant would not understand the position, the status, the condition, the sellability of the components. The chartered accountant can only see the costing from the books of account, and then even in some cases the present market value of the conditions is acceptable. So my understanding about this is that as far as if the components are like this, where the condition has to be assessed, then valuation has to be done, then it is a collective effort of a valuer who actually is having specialization in plant and machinery, and the valuer who has this.
Sir, we are losing your voice. So we are losing your voice. Yeah. We lost your audio.
not able to, we are not doing anything. Whenever it is gone, it comes back automatically. So it is
Yes,
coming automatically back.
Could you
Okay,
repeat
so
the last
I
few
will
sentences?
repeat. I will repeat that question. It depends upon the item of inventory. If the inventory is having some mechanical assets, some electrical assets, where the condition of the asset is not known to the valuer. In case we appoint a chartered accountant who is a valuer for financial assets, he would not be able to understand the condition. He would only understand the orders in hand, he will only understand the costing, and he will also understand the condition he will not be able to assess. So for that matter, we actually have to appoint a valuer who is an expert in plant and machinery and a valuer who is an expert in financial assets. So they collectively have to value a stock if the items are not accessible by the financial asset valuer. Now, in case the stock is a common item which can be understandable, which can be assessed by a common person, then of course the valuer for financial assets is an appropriate person, because he would be able to understand the costing, he would be able to understand the value addition, and then he will value it. But then of course the valuer for plant and machinery would not be required. Now, in case it's a jewelry, then in the case of jewelry, we understand that the government of India so far has introduced only 3 classes of assets. One is land and building, plant and machinery, and the securities and financial assets. Jewelry valuers has not been introduced. However, we have the valuers for jewelry who are registered under the income tax, under the Wealth Tax Act. So we should take those valuers and we should get the valuation done for jewelry from those valuers. So in case the items are something like the food grains, where the RP would not be able to understand what is the grade and what is the condition, so then the RP can use any expert who is considered to be an expert in classification of the food grain for the purpose of valuation of inventory. An outsider professional expert can be appointed for valuation of inventory only for the condition. However, for the valuation, for verification of books of account, for verification of cost, for verification of value addition, it is only the securities and financial asset class of assets. He would be appointed.
Yeah, thank you, sir. 1 minute. So the next question is, there is no loan taken from any bank at present for an MSME, whether they can avail emergency credit line. If so, what shall be the limit?
No, there is no power there. There is no eligibility. The only eligibility is with those people who have taken a loan from any bank, NBFC or financial institution. And to the extent of 20% of their existing working capital facility is given to them, that is given to them as term loan, repayable in 4 years with 1 year moratorium. Anyone who doesn't have any facility from bank or financial institution or NBFC is not eligible to take loan from this emergency credit line.
Yeah, there's one more.
A small announcement to all the viewers. The materials have not been put under the handouts. We will be sending email to them after we collect it from the speaker. So just a small piece of information. Many are asking where is the PPT and the material. We'll be sending email to you. Also, it will be put in the SRC website. Yeah, Revati ma'am, please.
Yeah. Whether the moratorium for repayment of installments is applicable for general real estate agreements or limited only to banks? By CA Murli Krishna Prasad.
No, I think we need to understand this question again. The moratorium, I think we need to understand this question from the person. What exactly you understood about the question? The
I think
question
he's asking about the EMI moratorium, which was announced, no? The 3 months EMI moratorium.
Okay, so I think this is regarding the home buyers. So every
Yes.
home buyer is getting the moratorium, and for 3 months or 6 months, and that is the moratorium for the repayment of the installments to the bank. so that the account would not be classified as NPA. However, the interest would continue, and I think in some cases the interest also is getting funded. In the case of this emergency credit line, the interest during COVID period is also getting funded, and it will come back to the company as an FITL. If somebody is not able to pay the interest also, it will come back to the company as FITL. So that is also the within the emergency line of credit, that facility is also available. However, in the case of home buyers, the moratorium is for installments, and that would be paid later, and then the banks will reschedule the account so that during this 6 months or 3 months the loan repayments are not liable to be made. I think that was the question.
Yeah, there's one more question which has come in. A valuation is required for live. Can you hear me, sir?
Yeah, I can hear you. Yes, I can hear you, but
Yeah,
your video is
Revati
freezed.
you are there?
Your video is freezed now.
Yeah, Revati ma'am's video is free
Yeah.
actually.
A IBC, irrespective of the asset, it deals with payables also.
See, we lost your voice in between, so we need to
Revati
repeat the
ma'am, can you
question.
repeat the question? Yeah, please repeat the question.
Yeah. Whether in the IBC process we need to value the liabilities also as by an SFA valuer.
So the liabilities are not
Securities
supposed to be
valuer.
valued. The liabilities are not supposed to be valued. It is only and only the assets. Liabilities are not supposed to be valued. And the valuation, the liquidation value is only the value of the assets. And liabilities are supposed to be handled out of the assets, and no liability is to be valued.
Okay. Yeah.
So
Okay.
we see like the yeah.
No, sir, please go ahead.
So for a chartered accountant, like whenever somebody comes to you and say that we have incurred losses and we are under financial stress, I think the best thing to advise them is the how to handle this financial stress. As I'm trying to say that this financial stress has to be passed down. It has to be passed and spread to everyone, and it is accepted by the society by now. In the initial 1 month, it was not acceptable, but now everyone has accepted that this natural calamity will give loss to everyone. Nobody would actually, uh, uh, nobody would come out of this pandemic without incurring a loss. Maybe an employee, yes, definitely will suffer a loss. So the management of financial stress during this period is very, very important, that we should start with settlement with all the liabilities. Then why I'm saying so, I repeat, the landlord doesn't have any option, legal option. Employee and employer doesn't have any legal option. The periodic payment wherever we make, they don't have any legal option. Banks don't have any legal option for the COVID defaults, COVID related defaults. The NBFCs have got no options. The unsecured loans, they have no options. So everyone will settle with the businessman so that the business continues and the losses are spread to all the stakeholders. So this is the conclusion of today's webinar. IBC, I have explained that IBC is not suspended. Financial stress, how to manage financial stress is very, very important. So I think the objective of the webinar is met. The future course of action for handling stressed asset is also met. How can we future of the IBC is also met. Future of the IBC is a very, very good. It is not at all diminished in any manner. So similarly, the businesses also will grow. The demand will be lower for some.
I think we lost your audio, Anil sir.
Again.
I think it comes back after a few seconds.
Yes, it has come back.
Yeah.
I think it has come back now.
Yeah, it has come
Yes.
back, sir. Yes.
So you see, the lot of apprehensions that we can see in the minds of professionals and businessmen, and those apprehensions has to be corrected. So first, we corrected the apprehensions regarding the IBC suspension. Completely incorrect. IBC has not been suspended, and the business in the IBC profession would continue. Only thing which is suspended is post 25th of March. Second thing that we attended today is that the entrepreneurs, the businessman, how the businessman can handle and what is the way forward for businessmen, for professionals. So this is the way forward, that they should continue with the business and they should realign their business with the expected demand now. The demand will be reduced for 1 year and more, even for 2 years, or in some of the industries, because the corona is not going to leave us. Corona will continue for a longer period. The social needs of a person would actually come down hugely. The people have to realign their businesses to the expected demand. Maybe that anyone who was engaged in Indian wedding industry, they would definitely suffer a lot. Hotels would suffer a lot. Banquet halls would suffer a lot, and all this would suffer because they actually have to realign. They have to start using their assets somewhere else. So this is my understanding of way forward. So there is nothing which can create demand suddenly, because the corona is not going to go suddenly, because today also we have a risk of catching on to corona. Even in sitting in the office, we might even catch on to corona, and that's where I'm not keeping people. I'm a person that I'm not allowing anyone to touch my bottle, touch my glass, touch my car. I'm not allowing them. Everything else was all this was being done by people earlier. So definitely there is a reduction in the demand of human resources. So everyone should settle this in their mind. If there is in case there is a lesser demand, they should readjust it to their salaries. They should accept lesser salaries. So if somebody is not ready to that, will suffer more, because the demand is not going to be revived to the earlier level. That's very, very clear. I think Mr. Jan can also add from his experience. Is there any other apprehension about the way forward, the IBC, the financial stress?
Yeah, no, Anil sir, you got it right. Actually, things are not going to be the same way they were earlier. It's going to take a lot of time, and people will have to kind of accept. In fact, we can see a lot of things already happening. The immediate thing was Indigo cutting down on salaries, and people have accepted, because otherwise you might not even get what you have been getting actually. So even as a discussion about the chartered accountants getting their fees, maybe for the post-COVID, you can still realize with little delay. But for things going forward, the client is going to come back and say, boss, I didn't have 3 months business to kind of manage it out. Help us out.
Not only 3 months, the client will say that you reduce the fee because I have reduced my turnover. Similarly, the chartered accountant will have to work downward. Chartered accountant will also have to request their entire infrastructure to resize it according to the expected demand in the future. Resizing of a shopkeeper, resizing of a hotel, resizing of a businessman. Look, there is no international traffic, international travel. Even the domestic travel is not there. So there are many businesses which actually have to realign themselves. And it is not really important that everyone should say that I am not able to pay, so everyone should go and file a Section 10 application and finally find that yes, because of the COVID, whatever I had, I diverted somewhere and filed a Section 10 application, and I am enjoying now. After 2 years, I will start another business. So that is the reason the Section 10 application was also included, that not even Section 10 application will be filed. So try to understand, like if a person was engaged in if a person was engaged in a business of international travel. He knows that the international travel business is gone for 2 years. So the one simple scenario for him is that he should file an application under Section 10 and get a fresh start for himself. And that is also prohibited, because otherwise everyone will file Section 10 application so that no liabilities are supposed to be paid. That is also prohibited. So everyone has to resize the businesses, readjust the businesses, realign the businesses. So I think this is what we are trying to conclude.
Any other questions to be taken up?
Yeah, there's one more question, sir, about Section 247 of the Companies Act. Why does Section 247 of Companies Act speak of valuations of liabilities? Where is it required? Again, by CA Nitish Grover. So he's come back to that valuation of liabilities under Section 247 of the Companies Act.
So this Section 247 presently deals with the, I think this is what he's referring to, is the where the RBI has got the power. Otherwise, this Section 247 of the Companies Act, in case Nitish can explain to me a little bit, what I believe is Section 247 is the where the NBFCs are supposed to be taken to. I think Section 247 of the Companies Act. No, that's 277. So what is exactly 247 of the Companies Act? Because I think you have to just give me a little bit of a tip on this. What is Section 247 of the Companies Act?
Yes, right. It provides that where a valuation is required to be made in respect of any property, stock, shares, debentures, securities, or goodwill, or any other asset or net worth of a company or its liabilities under the provisions of this act, it shall be valued by a person having valuation in the new regime.
So whenever it comes to net worth, if we are valuing net worth, the net worth is the asset minus liabilities. So when we are valuing net worth of a company, then the valuation of liabilities has to be done. See, under the insolvency law, there is no valuation required for liabilities. But in case somebody is trying to get a valuation of a tangible net worth or a net worth of a company, then everything would be required, assets minus liabilities, net worth. So the definition is the valuation of net worth. Then only the liabilities are required. See, when we value the assets, then no liabilities are required.
So basically, Section 247 is valuation by registered valuers, just come into effect from 18/10/2017.
Right, it is. Like this is very clear that in case the net worth has to be valued, then liabilities are required, otherwise not. But now, of course, there is a new valuers bill has also been introduced. The valuers bill is actually presently under discussion, and there will be an institution like IBBI, and that would be regulating the valuer profession. So I would advise everyone to reach out to this profession. This profession, as we have seen a valuer, that was a very, very not a good profession. It was considered because it was not regulated. The fee level was also very low. But now the new profession, the new qualified regulatory valuers, they would have better respect, and they would have better systems to value a particular transaction. That is a good profession, and that can be continued along with the chartered accountancy practice. That's a good profession. IBC also is a good profession. Everyone should try to reach out to this profession, and if not as an RP or a liquidator, then of course as a person who can even like, see, let us understand once this
I think we lost Sir's audio again.
There's audio again. You can flash that message again.
No, but he has since Sir has translated. It takes, I think, some 30 seconds for it to come again.
Yes, it has come back.
Yeah, it's come back.
Doubt
Yes.
has come, sir.
Now it has come back. So
Yeah.
the valuation is a good profession, and the IBC is a good profession, even if it is for the not for RP or the liquidator, but it can be handling the stressed assets. While we are auditing the company, we should know the insolvency law. And once it is implemented for proprietorship concerns, partnership firms, and individuals, then it will become a drawing room subject. And then no audit can be completed without the knowledge of insolvency. So it is very, very important that all the professionals must know the insolvency law. I'm not saying that everyone should become RP, but the knowledge of insolvency law is very, very important. And while doing auditing, it has to be used. Once this individual insolvency, proprietorship, partnership, that would be a very, very great opportunity for everyone. Very great opportunity for everyone. That should be again, but then that will take time because the infrastructure in India is for starting the individual. See, the personal guarantors insolvency was only started because the government was getting criticism that although we are taking the companies to insolvency, but the promoters are still enjoying a king size life. What are we able to do against the promoters? Then this particular law was notified hurriedly, and so that the criticism is completely taken off. And now the government can definitely say that we have taken away the company also, and we have made the promoter as a bankrupt. So what else can be done? And in case there is any fraudulent transaction, then the prosecution is also being done, and that prosecution is also being done by IBBI. You know, there is a section 236 under IBC that all the prosecutions will be handled by IBBI, and IBBI will become prosecutor in this case, not the RP. That scenario is also well taken care of. I think with this we can conclude our talk of today, and if there is no other question, we can conclude. So I would certainly say thank you very much to the entire South Indian.
You would like to add something to conclude, and then I'll request Abhishek to give the formal vote of thanks.
Yeah, I think sir has done a wonderful job as usual in presenting IBC and going forward what are the things which are going to be faced by us and how IBC has not been suspended. It is only certain defaults which are going to occur during the COVID period which is going to be suspended, and as usual elaborated on the opportunities for chartered accountants and valuers, which are both IBC and valuation are both the sunrise sectors currently for chartered accountants. We should not allow this suspension period of that certain defaults to put us off not acquiring knowledge for these in these two areas. Let us use this period to upgrade ourselves, upskill ourselves, and get the knowledge, so that once the lockdown is lifted and the suspension is also lifted, we are going to be flooded with work. Thank you so much, sir. I think I'll leave it to Abhishek to give you the formal vote of thanks.
Yeah, please.
Thank you so much, CA Anil Goel ji, for a very wonderful address and clarifying a lot of things. I think many of us came into this meeting shrouded in mystery on many aspects of the IBC and its applicability, including myself. And I think you managed to lift the veil all over that cloud, and you have given us so much clarity, like a sun shining through the clouds. That's how it felt today. So thank you so much, Anil Goel ji, for the really wonderful presentation, and also sharing your inputs on where you think it will be going forward and how we should act as a profession. I also like to thank CA Revati for joining us in this meeting and giving us an opening and closing address. And a special thanks to our chairman, CA Dungarchan Jain. The reason is we have been in back-to-back meetings over the last 3 days. Last night, our meeting went up to midnight at 12 o'clock. And in fact, just before this meeting, I think 1 minute before we were in another meeting, immediately we closed that room and joined here. And he doesn't have power in his house. He has gone. He's sitting out of somebody else's office and he has joined us. So I deserve a special thanks for Dungarchan Jain. We have been seeing each other's face for the last 72 hours more than our wives. So Despite that, he has been tireless. He looks like he's so fresh and he's just entered. But thank you, Chairman, for the wonderful efforts for joining us today. And thank you for all the audience for joining us and asking wonderful questions also to the speaker. Stay home, stay safe. I'd like to also quickly share our future programs and request everyone to join, because tomorrow, 10th, 11th, and 12th, 3 days, we have a workshop, a refresher course on technological changes and advancements if impacting income tax, GST, and audits. Tomorrow session on income tax, day after on GST, and third session on 12th on impact on audits. We have 3 reputed speakers speaking on this matter, and very important, especially given the COVID period. And then on the 13th of June, from 4 to 7 p.m. on Saturday, that is on Saturday, we have a program on standards of auditing, planning and audit. We have CA Bhavani Balasubramaniam, very, very reputed partner of a huge CA firm, will be joining us on that day, and she'll be addressing on this. Many of you may be aware, auditing and assurance standards is a mandatory CPE requirement now. So irrespective of who we are, we have to complete these mandatory CPRs. So we are planning programs every Saturday for the next 3 Saturdays at the same time, 4 p.m. to 7 p.m. So request you all to please register for the same. On 15th of June at 6 p.m. to 8 p.m., we have an excellent program called Income Tax Settlement Commission Procedure and Practice. It's a very, very emerging area. The settlement commission is hugely remunerative as well. So it's a program where we've got the vice chairman of the settlement commission, Advocate Hukumchand Jain IRS from Bombay, who's joining us. This is a free program, and request you to please register before the registrations get filled out. This is on 15th of June, that is Monday at 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. We will, of course, announce the future programs. We have planned many more, and we will be announcing them as these programs conclude. So request all of you to join for our future programs. Thank you all. Stay home, stay safe.
Yeah.
So I would like to say one word,
Sir,
a few words. Like I would say that the SIRC certainly is doing a wonderful job, as Abhishek announced so many, and I have also heard before that you are trying to engage all your members, all professional brothers, into activities during this lockdown period, and it is a huge work that you are doing, and my heartiest thanks to the chairman, Mr. DC Jain, Abhishek, and special thanks to Revati. She's been interacting with me, and most important is that nothing could have happened without participants, and I still see there are more than 200 participants that are connected with us, and right through the, and even presently also we have about 258 participants connected to us, and that actually gives us a pleasure. I would certainly say that I am doing this only for my learning, because this is my way of learning, as I always say, and there is no other objective. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.